Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I have a ton of new polling data that just completely spells disaster for the Republicans in the midterms, and I am so here for it. Before I get into the details, though, please do me a huge favor. Hit the subscribe button below this video. It is free for you. Yeah, absolutely helps the show in so many ways, so greatly appreciate that. So here's what all's going down. So NBC, they just conducted their first poll since March, and it's really good news for Democrats. So Donald Trump's approval rating continues to spiral, and a majority of Americans are still blaming the Republicans for the shutdown. Take a look at this first video and part of this polling.
Is a mood that has soured on Trump and the Republican Party in that time. An approval rating of 43% now in our new poll for Donald Trump. But check out our previous poll. This was back in March. 47-51 for the government shutdown. We asked the question, who do you blame? 42% say Democrats in Congress, but 52% said it's either the president's fault or his party in Congress's fault.
Well, isn't that just so sad? So most people, they're just not buying the GOP's excuses for the shutdown. And everyone who's paying attention knows this is the same party that just extended and expanded tax cuts for the wealthy. And yet they're holding the government hostage because they refuse to extend health insurance subsidies for the working class and the working poor. I mean, tell me about your priorities without telling me about your priorities, right? NBC also reported that Trump is underwater on every single issue with the exception of border security. So check this one out.
Get decent marks when it comes to border security and immigration. Slight majority say he has lived up to what he promised to do there. But on none of these other topics do you see that number getting past the mid-40s. In fact, the low 30s down here on the economy question.
Low 30s on the economy. Oh my God. I mean, absolutely just brutal numbers. That is hashtag sad in all caps. 30% on his handling of inflation and 34% on the economy. The main reasons that Americans bit the bullet and voted for him again. And in this same poll, 61% of respondents said that their family's income is not keeping up with the cost of living. And this next one was very revealing. So they asked which party would do a better job on various topics, and Democrats have taken the lead on a very highly relevant topic. So take a look at this. I mean, no surprise. I mean, yeah, Republicans are still ahead. They still have a big advantage on crime, on issues surrounding border security, immigration. But look at that. Democrats are now within 1 point on the economy. That blows my mind. And they have a 23% lead on who would be best to deal with health care. So that combined with their other leads on which party would be best to protect your constitutional rights and democracy, that is a great sign for the midterms, because all of those topics, they scored the highest ranking for what will decide how people vote in next year's election. Take a look at this. All of those issues. And although immigration and border security are tied with the cost of healthcare, I suspect those numbers are going to change. I suspect that when people realize how much their insurance premiums have increased, because open enrollment was 2 days ago. I was just looking at my calendar. People are starting to realize how much they're going to be paying just for their monthly cost, not counting copays and deductibles and, all that other crap. And then take a look at this clip. So this is probably the best news for Democrats, and their chances in the midterms. Check this out.
About their enthusiasm for the midterm elections. That'll be next year, 2026. But this was astounding. 66%, two-thirds of all voters have a high level of interest. We will find that number typically on the eve of the actual midterm election. This is a year out. And this is what's encouraging for Democrats, troubling for Republicans. More enthusiasm for Democrats. That high level of interest, it's about 3/4 of Democrats. It is a little bit lower there for Republicans, and that could feed into the second part of this equation, and that is we asked folks, midterm election, which party would you want to control Congress? And the Democrats have now, in our poll, this is significant, opened up an 8-point advantage over Republicans. We checked this back in the spring. It was dead even, and that's the kind of lead Democrats had when they swept to power in Congress in Trump's first term.
Yeah, very bad sign for the Republicans. And remember, guys, we don't necessarily need people to come out and vote effectively for Democrats, or affirmatively, I should say. We just need Trump's 2024 voters to stay home. And speaking of which, he continues to disappoint a very key voting demographic, or several voting demographics that put him back in office. So check out this chart. This just says it all and what's going on. Trump is underwater with every single demographic group in the latest Economist poll. So this was conducted by YouGov. Look at where he is with Black and Hispanic and Gen Z voters. Almost, as far as I can tell, like 75% underwater with Black voters, about -40, it looks like, with Hispanics, and then the, -50, it looks like, with the under 30 crowd. And Trump hit an all-time low, a new all-time low in this Economist poll, far lower than Biden's lowest approval rating, and even lower than Donald Trump's first term, even lower than the lowest that he had in that first term. Take a look at this. Look at how that line, it's just like a roller coaster going down. He's going down. Anyway, he is now at 39% approval, 57% disapproval. And Trump also remains underwater in every single issue with this same pollster. So take a look at this one. But in this one, it's even worse. So he is underwater in this poll, with this YouGov Economist poll, underwater on national security, underwater on immigration even. Look at that. It looks like he's like 10 points underwater on immigration in this poll. And check out his numbers on inflation and jobs. I mean, that should serve as a huge flashing red light for Republicans, because look at what these respondents said when they were asked to rank their top issues. Inflation, jobs, healthcare. Those are the top three. All the things that Trump and the Republicans are either ignoring or they're making it worse by what he's doing. So unbelievable how bad he's doing right now. And then Trump was just hit with another new low for his second term. So this one that I'm going to show you next, this is from a CNN SSRS poll. This was just released this morning. Check this out. So as you can see, he is at only 37% approval in their poll, 63% disapproval. And that has gone down. Look at that. He has lost 10%. He has dropped 10% since the beginning of his second term, since he took office this year. His disapproval rating jumped 11%. That is the highest disapproval rating that Trump has had in either of his two terms. And then check this out. When they asked these respondents about Trump's policies and whether or not they've improved or worsened the economic conditions, these same voters, these same people said, 61% said that he has made things worse. Um, absolutely. I mean, this is like the worst news ever if you're hoping to win next year. Only 27% say, oh, yeah, I know he's made things better. And then if you look at the crosstabs on this, that 61% who say that he's made things worse, that includes 67% of independent voters and even 20% of registered Republicans who took this poll. 61% also said in this poll that he's gone too far in using his presidential powers and the executive branch powers. And a majority, 57%, also said he's gone too far in regard to deporting immigrants. I mean, it's just, he's failing on every single question, on every single level. He is failing. And of those people, of that 57% who said he's going too far in immigration, that includes, because I looked at the crosstabs on this as well, that includes 65% of independents, which you must win independents now to win the elections. And even 12% of Republican voters are saying he's going too far. So that could explain this next answer to these next questions, I should say. So they asked these people, if the midterms were held today, which party's candidate would you vote for? Check this out. As with other polls that we're seeing, Democrats have taken the lead. So 47% would vote for the Democrat versus 42% who would vote for the Republican. Dems and Republicans are pretty much sticking with their teams. I looked at the crosstabs and they're pretty much solidly on their own teams as far as this goes. Independents are what's giving Democrats the advantage. So 44% of independents said, I would go for the Democratic candidate. Only 31% said that they would vote for the Republican. Even 3% of registered Republicans in the crosstabs said that they would vote for the Democratic candidate in the midterms. One other thing that's really hurting Republicans is the enthusiasm gap. So I looked at the crosstabs. 86% of Democratic voters are either very or extremely motivated to vote next year in the midterms. Only 77% of Republicans said the same thing. And check out this crosstab on Donald Trump's approval rating. So this, you might recall, I mentioned this at the beginning, Donald Trump's, job approval rating. He is just underwater with every single demographic group. So, I showed you that other poll and showed you how every demographic group is now turning on him. That is not a one-off. That's not like, oh, wow, that's an outlier and we can explain it away because this is just a liberal pollster and, this isn't what everybody across America is saying. This was just one poll. I mean, that's the cope that you're going to hear from the Republicans and from MAGA in mostly. But as you can see here, this is a completely separate pollster. And yeah, he is underwater even with white and male voters, which was like his hardcore base. And look at his numbers down towards the bottom there. His numbers with the youngest group of voters, so 18 to 34-year-olds, he's at 71% disapproval. That was one of his strongest voting blocks last year. And here's why he's completely tanking with that group. Take a look at this next graph. So the crosstabs show they are feeling that 18 to 34 age range, they are feeling the effects of his economic failures more than any other group. I mean, it couldn't be more clear. 82% of voters, if you can make it out, I don't know if you guys can see it because it's kind of small, but 82% of voters 34 and under say the economy is either somewhat or very poor. Over 8 in 10 voters I hate to be the one to go like, oh, told you so, but this is exactly what I predicted the day after the election. I don't know if you guys remember, but I made a video. I think it was titled something like minorities and young people are going to regret their votes the most. And I took a lot of heat from minority voters, especially saying, oh, why are you blaming us? We voted, mostly for Kamala. I wasn't blaming anybody. I was saying these are the groups that are going to be the hardest hit by his policies. They're the ones that are going to most regret voting for this man because of his policies, because of what we knew of him from his previous administration. So anyway, another pollster reported similar negative results for Republicans. Navigator, they're a pollster, they also found that more Americans are blaming the GOP, blaming the Republicans for the shutdown. So take a look at their polling. For anyone who can't make out the numbers again, 41% blame the Republicans for the shutdown, 29% blame the Democrats, and then 22% blame both parties equally. Now, I listened to a focus group over the weekend. Almost every single one said, every single participant in that focus group said, I blame both parties equally. So, I think it's going to move to that as time rolls on, but Democrats just have to do a good job of messaging, which unfortunately, it's not their strong suit. It's what they suck at. Anyway, Trump was hit with another new low by this pollster. So Trump's approval rating on the economy is now negative 21%. And as you guys can see, he hit a low in his first term of 13%. So almost 10% lower than the low of his first term. I mean, he's setting records all over the place, and not for the reason you want to set records. And as you guys all know, like I've said before, these are not outliers. This is a trend we're seeing. We have seen this all year long. So for MAGA, who wants to cope and say, oh, well, you guys just hate him and these are all, shit lib pollsters. But no. We're seeing this even with MAGA pollsters. The latest Washington Post Ipsos poll also shows more Americans blaming the GOP for the shutdown. So take a look at this one. As of the end of October, so just a few days ago, 45% blame Republicans, only 33% blame the Democrats. And Trump is 18 points underwater on his job approval rating. Look at this. So his approval rating, I don't know if you guys can make this out, but his approval rating hasn't fallen much since he took office. It's been crap. Again, I don't know if you can make it out, but he's at 44% approval, and he was at 44% approval in January when he took office. He's now at 41%. His disapproval number, though, this is the interesting part. His disapproval has grown from 51% to 59%. So it's not going up. And, the disapproval and approval are not in tandem. They're not going up and down at the same amount. And Americans, this is my theory on why I think this is happening. I think Americans who were willing to give him a chance, some people who were like, you know what? I'm not going to judge. I'm going to give him a shot. I'm going to see how he does before I form an opinion. I think those people are now going, ugh, yeah, this is not what I was expecting. This is not what we need. I now see, they're coming off the sidelines and they're going, yeah, this guy, he sucks. He sucks big time, and this is not good. And as we've seen with other polls, Trump is upside down in this poll again on all issues, but including, just like one of those other ones that I showed you, including immigration. So take a look at this. Again, for those who can't make it out, only 37% approve of his handling of the economy. 43% approve of his immigration policies, which, yeah, it's, still good. It's still better than it should be, but 56% disapprove. 33% approve on his handling of tariffs, and only 36% approve on his overall handling of the federal government. Utterly, completely, and totally pathetic. It is just unbelievable how bad he's doing. And either a majority or a plurality believe that Trump is going too far on every single issue. Take a look at this. So a whopping 64% said he's going too far in expanding the power of the presidency. 50% are saying the same thing about deportation of immigrants. Only 34% say, oh yeah, his approach is just right. He's doing perfect on immigration. So, those are the Twitter MAGA users. Those are the people that you see on Twitter who are absolutely untethered from reality, have no clue what's going on, and think, they're the hardcore racists that just think that Trump can do no wrong, and they're totally happy that he's hurting people. And they don't get it. They don't get that actually he's hurting their own party. He's hurting the MAGA movement. And here's what respondents had to say about the two parties and being out of touch with average Americans. This one, very disturbing. Again, if you can't make it out, 63% say Trump is out of touch with concerns of most people in the US. 68% said the same thing about the Democratic Party, and 61% said the same about the Republicans. I mean, they're just not happy with anybody. Now, I wonder if those numbers are going to change because, Donald Trump held his tone-deaf Halloween party as Americans were losing their SNAP benefits and unemployed and, getting thrown off the payroll of the government and about to lose their health care. So we'll see. And then this next one's very telling. So I don't have a graphic on this, but 67% of or actually I do, 67% of the respondents said that the U.S. is heading in the wrong direction. So not good. This is what everybody pointed to last year to show that Biden was failing. And more voters now regret their vote for Trump last year than the people who regret voting for Kamala Harris. Take a look at this one. So I don't know if you guys can make this out, but 7% of the people who voted for Trump now regret it. And that's grown. So since April, that was the last time they asked, it was at 6%. Whereas for Kamala Harris voters, only 3% regret voting for Harris. And that number has remained stagnant. It hasn't gone up. And as with other polls, Democrats have a lead in the midterms. So take a look at this one. This is where the page cut off, so that's why you see the black line in between. But 42% said if the midterms were held today, they'd vote for the Democratic candidate. Only 39% said that they would vote for Republicans. So as much as I don't want to see people hurt by Donald Trump and the Republicans and what they're doing, this had to happen, you guys. This had to happen for people to wake up. I also said that the day after the election. There is no other way. Sometimes you have to shoot the hostage in order to stop the terrorist. You hopefully shoot them in the foot or the leg, somewhere that's, not going to kill them. But that is the way it goes sometimes. And without that, if Donald Trump was a popular president and everything was going his way right now, we'd never be rid of him, and we'd never be rid of the MAGA movement. So people had to have this happen, had to live through this in order to wake up. It is sad. It is unfortunate. And again, I hope that people don't suffer. But yeah, this is where we're at. So anyway, guys, I will let you know when I hear more on polling. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like, please share, and subscribe. Please donate if you can. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.